morning. Welcome back to the chaos on my desk this morning. Welcome back to the creative craziness that's been going on here. It's time for a tidy up really, but I'm just kind of waiting till we get to the very end of this and then I'll have a really good tidy up. I think it's almost worth making a really big mess, isn't it? And then you really appreciate it when you do tidy it up. It's just got stuff everywhere now because I've been doing this for weeks. And thank you so much for being along with me on this journey through the sketchbooking that we've been doing, just messing about with paint and paper. I do hope you've been enjoying it. I hope maybe it's inspired you just to have a go yourself. Do let me know in the comments if you have, because I just love to know that, you know, maybe this has inspired somebody else to have a go and just loosen up a little bit, just play. That's all it is about. You know, my watchword is play, as you know. You probably get tired of hearing it, but it's just, I can't think of what else to say except just it's about relaxation, it's about having fun, and it's about putting you first, putting your creativity first, whatever that is. Somebody said that they got a bit stuck with their fabric work that they were doing, and so they decided because they'd watched this they would go and just do a bit of painting and playing and doodling. And that's, you know, doodling, what a great word doodling is. I think doodling, it's a bit like all these things, it's a very underappreciated word, doodling. I'd like to doodle through my life really. I think that's what I do. I just doodle a bit here and I doodle a bit there. So thank you so much, as I say, for being here. Thank you very much for all your subscriptions and all your comments. I wouldn't be here without you. I wouldn't be doing this if you weren't here with me. And it's just lovely knowing I've got people in different parts of the world. So when I say good morning, I really mean good morning or good afternoon or good evening, depending on what time of day you're watching this as well, because we're all in different time zones and we're all in different zones really in our lives. We're all doing different things. So the weekend, what did I do at the weekend? Well, one of these weekends we've been doing some Meet the Makers. We've got a little exhibition with my group, Fabricate, our group, and we've been doing little Meet the Maker sessions. So we've been setting up at this cafe where it's like a community hub where the exhibition is, and we've just been sitting there doing our stuff, and anybody who's wandering past pops in and says hello. And the loveliest one I think we had, I think our best guest visitor so far was a little girl, and she must have been, I don't know, primary age, perhaps about 7 or 8 or something, and she was just lovely. And she was interested in the wool that my colleague was weaving. She was using lovely wool fleeces, and she was making a peg loom. She had a peg loom and she was weaving rugs and things. And this little girl was fascinated by this, and she of course went home with a little piece of wool. And then she came in and she was watching my other friend who was painting, and she just joined in with, you know, she wanted to join in, but we didn't really have enough stuff or capacity for that as it happened on that day. But she was just adorable, and I thought, it's children, this is what we all need to be. We need to be like children. She was full of curiosity. She wanted to know about the colours of the paint. She wanted to know, you know, and I just think this is what this has been about for me, is just been tapping into my sort of inner child, if you like, and just putting aside all thoughts of what outcome I needed, even the idea that it was going to be a sketchbook for going on holiday with. So today I thought we'd do a bit of cutting and sticking today, putting paper, more paper into the mix, and textured paper and things. So we'll see where that's going to take us today. Just to add a little bit of je ne sais quoi to the mix. Just to add a bit of va-va-voom into it, just a bit of texture, and show you how to use some upcycle some papers basically. I mean, this is all recycling, isn't it? It's all using, I don't know, leftover bits and bobs that I've got kicking around the place, using all the bits of sponge and plastic bits and goodness knows what that I've used, and then using some upcycled paper. And that just all adds to the interest on your pages. You can stick anything in it. I mean, this is yours. If you're doing one of these, if you're doing a sketchbook or a journal, whatever you call it, art journaling is a big thing, I know, and it's you put in it what you like. That's all it's about. Tap into that inner child, as I say, and just get cutting and sticking. The more you let go of needing it to look a particular way. I mean, I was a bit stuck the other day. I was doing I'm not going to show you them yet, but I have actually done the covers for the book. And I got a little bit stuck until I just started. I tore up a piece of newspaper and I just started sticking things on it and slopping some paint on. And I got over that sort of stuck bit. So I think without further ado, we will get on to the interesting bit. I'm going to take my jacket off, get my pinny on, and get cracking. So if you haven't got one of these, fear not. It is simply a single hole punch, okay? And it's a really useful tool if you're doing sketchbooks, because what it means is you can make custom made pages to go in your book. So for example, this one, I've kind of created this by crumpling up the paper a lot. I crumple, crumple, crumple. And it becomes kind of cloth-like. And I might just make myself, I might just glue a piece of a page onto it to make it have an edge to it, or I could cut holes in it, but it's actually a little bit soft, so I might have to sew that onto another piece of paper. But what I wanted to show you was making bigger pages for the book rather than just having the normal sized ones. So the other thing I've done is this. I've just torn a piece of drawing paper out of my book, out of my other sketchbook, and torn it along, and I've just put this on top basically. Imagine that's the end that doesn't have any holes. Imagine there's no holes in this at all. I simply put that across there like that, and I use my little hole punch and go snip, 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 snip. So that's a really useful thing to have. And as I said, my thinking was to actually show you, I'm going to do some messing about with some bits of paper that I've already printed or painted, splodged on. Some of it is the newspaper that I've actually just been playing around with, tearing up the bits from down here. As I say, nothing is wasted, everything has a purpose, everything has a use, and I just thought I'd do something really simple on here, just possibly quite monochrome. So I've got a couple of bits up here which I've done a bit of painting onto. They're not quite dry, but I think they'll be fine. And I just really wanted to mess around. This is this nice sort of handmade paper that I've got, and I thought, well, I could just play around with it. I just want to show you, basically how you'd go about this. And I think it's really nice to have rough edges everywhere, rough edges on your edges if you like, and then you can just be layering things up. So this might not be what I absolutely end up with, but I just kind of wanted to show you. So I'll just simply glue that down. If only I could find my glue in this pile of detritus that I've made such a big mess on here. So I'll just simply be using some glue like this, just a stick glue, or if you've got PVA or whatever you've got, you can be gluing these down. So I think we'll have a play around with that and see where that takes us. I could paint the page first, but I thought, well, I'm just going to really cover it with the pieces of paper and see what happens. So let's get some glue onto this. I was thinking that bit could go perhaps up there like that, quite nicely. Maybe angle it a bit so it's got a bit of a that wasn't quite what I was going to do, but if I do it like that, then that's quite nice going. That bit then sort of bleeds into that bit there, which is quite nice. So if I'm using print, what I generally do, unless I'm going to tear it up into little small bits and overlay them, I try and put it upside down, because otherwise you kind of read the writing and it's a little bit distracting. So I was thinking I might put that all the way along there, and I might have to add a bit more paint onto it after we've glued it down. There's the odd patch that I'm not so keen on, but again, you see, I could be actually lifting that up possibly, and maybe that could go under there. You see, we could actually hide that bit by sticking it under there. That would almost work, wouldn't it? Possibly. Or possibly it's better like that. No, I think it's better like that. Let's go with that. This is what it looks like so far. So I've just put some glue down here. And what I've got here is some tissue paper that I've just printed off another piece of paper that I've printed, if you know what I mean. I've spread the paint out. I've just got some tissue paper that I put the paint onto here, and then I've tissue papered it off like that. So I've ended up with this lovely tissue paper. Now it's a little bit torn in places. This is quite a fun thing to do, and to see how it's going to go. Just kind of what I want to do is just kind of crinkle it up a bit and see what we can do. Whether I do it that way or do it that way. We'll do it that way. We'll just do it in little bits. It's so much fun. So much fun. Who cares about anything when you're doing this? So I could have actually put a coat of paint on there, because actually that would have been quite nice with those torn bits, but I'm just going to see if I can kind of sprinkle it up a bit so that it kind of, I don't know, it looks like rocks or something. There we go, like that. There we go. not press it down too much, and then I'll try and use a bit of this along here. This is very much live, ladies and gentlemen, or I suppose I'm recording it for you technically, but this is kind of me literally doing it in front of your eyes. A bit more of this on there, I think. A little bit delicate because it is just tissue paper. It's lovely because I'm making nice little scrinkly bits. So we're getting a lot of texture there, which I'm enjoying. So the other bit I've also got a bit, here's one I really made earlier from a different series of printing. So it's got different things on, and I can always add a bit more paint onto it, you see. But I just quite like these marks. I thought these were really nice marks. Let's see if I can tear that a little bit. I try and make sure there aren't any sort of cut edges of it visible. That's the main thing. And it's just messing about. And I can knock back some of this white. There we go, quite like that. And I can just be adding bits on. So do something here at this end. Maybe perhaps over there or something. See, who gives a monkey about what's going on in the world when you can just be tucked away in a quiet corner of your house, messing about like this. Quite like that, but I don't want it to be too obvious, and I also don't like that edge very much, but I might just tear that so it's not obvious. Just doing this very carefully because the tissue paper gets a bit fragile. It's all about taking the risk, okay? This is all about taking a risk. Instead of going, oh, well, I don't know, I just go, right, I'm going to put it on. Especially if I don't know, I will happily pop it on and then take the consequences, because there aren't any, basically. There are no consequences to this, because all you're doing is messing about. And what's the worst thing that can happen? You can make a mess. You can make a mess that you have to clear up. That's the worst thing that can happen doing this. I don't want that to be too much over there. It's a bit ramshackle. A little bit ramshackle, and I'll need to sort of do something with these edges. It always comes back to the edges, doesn't it? Well, I think what I'd really like to do with this is kind of do some stitching into it. Now, you could do some hand stitching. You could do some really nice marks with some hand stitching. It's a little bit thick to stitch through by hand, but I think you'd manage. But when it's dry and all the glue's done, I will perhaps do a bit of stitching with my machine, which will be very exciting. I did promise you some stitch, and I think we need to get a bit done, don't you? But I like that. I do. So the other thing I'm going to just show you is, I'm going to turn this over, and you can see how where I've stuck the paper down, it's showing through the little holes. So when it's dry and all the glue has set, I will simply do my hole punching back along there to get rid of that, and then I'll have to snip these bits again to make sure that it can go in the book. But that's very easy to do, but I will do that once it's all nice and dried and held in place. But isn't that fun? It's nearly as good as fabric, isn't it? This is my lovely little Singer sewing machine that I bought for 40 quid second hand from my lovely sewing machine shop chappy, and it's great because I just keep it for sewing paper. Then I don't have to worry about changing needles or getting any paint on it or glue on it or anything nasty. So I'm just going to do a bit of sewing here, and I don't know what I'm going to do. We're just going to start off and see what happens. So I don't quite know what I'm going to do here, but I'm sewing paper. It's pretty much the same as sewing fabric, but I tend to go a little bit slower because, especially as this piece is actually quite thick now because it's got several layers of paper. So I'm just going to let the machine go easy. Let's just have a little look at that. So what I've got here, apart from very sticky fingers now, is I've got this, which was a piece of just the kitchen roll that I was using to do a lot of mopping with, and I've split it. I split the back off it. I just peeled the 2 layers apart because it's got all these gorgeous sort of colours on it, and I thought, well, we could be using that. We could very much glue that onto here, I think, like that. Just because I can. It's not for a purpose other than the pleasure of doing it. I just don't want to waste all those lovely colours, and I just thought, right, I'm going to stick you on there, pal. And that's quite good because it's the Pink Pig side. The Pink Pig page. It also means I'm not wasting this page, which is the sort of the entry page for the book. And I don't know whether I might stick this on as well on the other side. I don't think so. I think that's too pale. But I can stick some other papers on this side as well, and then that can be quite fun. I might just see what we're going to do with that. So there we go. I don't want to waste it. It's got these lovely sort of wrinkly marks on it. No idea what I'm going to do it for, but it's fun.